Hi, I'm Ben Chapple, a PhD student at Imperial College, and I'm here to show you some of London's best autumn wildlife.
Summer is definitely over. The days are getting colder, the nights are closing in, and it can feel like the activities of a lot of animals and plants are winding down for winter. But that doesn't mean there's nothing to see. Autumn is a time of dramatic change for our wildlife, and if you know where to look, it can be one of the most exciting times of year to get out in nature.
One of the most obvious changes is the departure of birds that visit London in summer to breed.
Common swifts, whose joyful screams and freewheeling displays filled the summer sky in parts of the city, are already long gone. Having only arrived in May, most usually depart by the end of August, although this year some lingered into September.
Amazingly, these supremely aerial birds probably won't touch land again until they return to London next spring, despite flying all the way to sub-Saharan Africa and back. Even more remarkably, birds that fledged this year probably won't breed next summer and may spend nearly 2 years in continuous flight, eating, sleeping, and even mating on the wing.
Although the swifts have disappeared, many of our summer migrants, such as common whitethroat, can linger well into October. At this time of year, thousands, even millions of birds are on the move across the country. Migrants, including of species otherwise rare or totally absent in London, can turn up anywhere. Regular species include redstart, pied and spotted flycatchers, wheatear and windchat, and there's always the chance of something truly unusual. Keep an eye out in any green space, although it's often best to try first thing in the morning, as birds may move on when parks get busy later in the day.
Sometimes you can even stand and see migration in action. Come to a viewpoint like this one, Parliament Hill on Hampstead Heath, and if conditions are right, you could see thousands of birds of dozens of different species pass overhead in just a few hours.
This phenomenon is known as visible migration, and in October it could include birds leaving London for warmer climes, as well as those that have come from Scandinavia to spend the winter here. Particularly numerous species include wood pigeon, starling, and winter thrushes such as fieldfare and redwing. Redwings also commonly migrate at night, and if you step outside on a clear autumn evening, you'll have a great chance of hearing the thin, high-pitched calls of flocks on the move.
For many species, migration routes have remained largely unchanged for thousands of years, but some are now altering their behaviour as our climate warms, including in London, where temperatures are already several degrees higher than the surrounding countryside.
One example of this is the blackcap. These are common breeding visitors to woodlands and parks across the city, with most heading south in autumn to Spain and northwest Africa. However, in recent years, more and more have chosen to overwinter in southern England. Many of these birds actually breed in continental Europe, but increasingly our own breeders are also foregoing the dangers of long-distance migration. Milder winters, but also the provision of food help to explain this new behaviour. Remarkably, there is evidence that blackcaps wintering in Britain are actually evolving longer, thinner bills, an adaptation to plucking seeds from bird feeders.
All migratory birds, regardless of their ultimate destination, have to know how to get there. And the variety of methods that different species use for navigation is truly mind-blowing. Some use the sun, some the stars, some rely on particular landmarks for guidance, and some can even sense the Earth's magnetic field.
One of the most amazing examples of this comes from robins. Although these are familiar birds year-round in London, they do in fact undertake significant migrations, using a magnetic sense to navigate. And some astonishing studies involving the use of specially designed goggles have revealed that the birds can, in effect, see the Earth's magnetic field. If you'd like to learn more about this, and many other wonders of bird migration, there are some great links in the description below.
Many birds begin to move south as the colder weather leaves them with fewer insects to eat. And as summer wanes, the lives of invertebrates across London do begin to slow down, with many species becoming increasingly hard to find. But if you know where to look, you can still spot butterflies, bees, spiders, moths, and more over the next few months.
Many of our native plants have by now finished their flowering seasons, causing a fall in the populations of various pollen-feeding insects. However, one plant, ivy, flowers between September and November, providing a vital late-season source of nectar for lingering invertebrates. Check out the delicate yellow-green flowers of your local ivy patch, and you might see bees, including the stripy ivy bee, wasps, butterflies, and an abundance of flies. Records of any of these species are valuable to scientific and conservation organizations, as they can help to develop our understanding of how different species' activity periods are being affected by climate change. Sightings can be submitted using the iRecord function on the London Natural History Society website. All the links you'll need are in the description below.
If you have ivy growing in your garden or on your house, it can be tempting to prune it at this time of year. But as one of the only plants currently in flower, it can be crucial for helping insects get through the winter, and the berries that come a few months later are a vital food source for garden birds. If you can, wait until all the berries have been taken before cutting it back.
Besides ivy, another great place to look for invertebrates is under logs and stones, or even pot plants. Autumn is a really productive time to check in places like this for creatures that love damp, shady spots. As the weather gets cooler and wetter, species that had burrowed deep into the soil move closer to the surface, making them much easier to find. 5 common species of woodlouse, as well as a number of centipedes and millipedes, are all worth looking out for.
Damp, shady spots are also fantastic for another group of organisms that emerge in force in autumn: fungi.
With over 14,000 hectares of woodlands, parks and gardens, London is the greenest major city in Europe, and this wide variety of habitats is irresistible to fungi. A bewildering diversity of species thrives across the urban landscape, with over 600 recorded on Hampstead Heath alone. With its abundance of ancient, mature trees and parkland, London is a stronghold for several species, including hen of the woods, a root rotter, and the attractive coral-like zoned rosette. Although many fungi are great to eat, some are deadly poisonous, so you need to be sure of your identification.
For many of London's mammals, autumn is a time for a last burst of activity before the harshness of winter.
Grey squirrels gather and store acorns, and bats feed up on the last few flying insects before beginning their hibernation.
But there's another mammal that produces what is arguably London's most dramatic autumn wildlife spectacle.
Visit Richmond or Bushy Park in the southwest of the city between now and early November, and you might just hear a primeval roar echoing through the ancient woodland. These deep, guttural bellows signal the presence of the park's red deer, the UK's largest living land mammal, and descendants of those hunted by Charles I nearly 400 years ago.
Autumn is the rutting season for these magnificent animals, with males competing, sometimes violently, for the opportunity to mate. That ground-shaking roar is a threat to potential rivals and an enticement to females or hinds.
The stags have spent all summer bulking up for the rut and are in peak physical condition, weighing up to 200 kilograms. They need to be. A male scarcely has time to eat or rest while he defends his harem of up to 40 hinds. Full-on fights between stags are rare and only occur when the two competitors appear almost perfectly matched. But it's not just the other large males he needs to worry about. Younger males will often try to dash in while he's distracted, hoping to sneak a mating.
Such are the demands of the rut that a male could lose up to a third of his body weight, perhaps 50 or 60 kilograms, in just a few short weeks.
Given that the animals are quite used to people, Richmond Park is one of the very best places in the country for observing this spectacular behaviour at close quarters. Although it's important to emphasise that they are dangerous wild animals, and it's recommended you keep at least 50 metres away at all times.
As the dark nights draw in, the weather worsens and memories of summer fade, it can sometimes seem as if the world becomes a drabber, less vibrant place. But whether it's the red deer rut or returning redwings, fungal forays or foliage cast in rich reds and yellows, autumn in London provides wildlife experiences to lift the spirits wherever you look.
Although the shortening days and waning warmth can sometimes leave us feeling down, the changes they bring to the natural world are exciting and dramatic.
For me, getting out in nature at this time of year is so important for my mental health, and the first returning fieldfare of autumn is surely just as worthy of celebration as the swallow in spring. I hope this film will have encouraged you to get out there and experience some of London's fantastic autumn wildlife for yourself.
If you'd like to learn more about the topics covered in this film, there are some great links in the description below. And if you want to hear some ideas about how you can help to conserve nature yourself, please do check out our article, 9 Things You Can Do About the Natural World, on the Grantham Institute website.